feels like Bitcoin is maturing very, very fast this year. We have the ETFs. I know they're futures ETFs, and we should probably talk about those because I'm sure you've got a view on that. Because some people were very positive for them, some people said they were negative. But it feels like we have a fast maturing Bitcoin market.
Yeah, I mean, over the past couple of years, we've had a big insurge of institutions. So it's gone mainstream in the financial market to some extent. It's still a very small allocation among retail and among institutional portfolios, but at least it's not like considered a joke asset anymore like it was years ago. And so there's a lot of interest in that space, obviously. And then the Bitcoin ETFs kind of signal a few things. One, I mean, they've already existed in other countries. And so one of the long-term, say, risks or FUDs, depending on how you want to look at it, that people have around Bitcoin is what if it's banned? And so the SEC coming out and approving, Bitcoin ETFs, and we've also had, say, the Fed chairman says there's no intention of banning cryptocurrencies. Basically, some of these large pools of capital want more regulatory clarity, and so that helps them when they see that. And so, there are many of us that cared less about regulatory clarity, and we want to own good assets, so we bought that ahead of time. But there are other pools of capital that they want to see that SEC approval to some extent. Now, I mean, I personally don't like futures-based commodity ETFs. So these existed for oil, these have existed for agricultural products. I'm not a fan of them, and that would apply to Bitcoin as well. So I'd rather have, if they're going to have an ETF, I'd rather have them have a spot ETF where they actually hold the Bitcoin in cold storage. Now you still have counterparty risk, you still have, other issues like that, but at least that kind of ETF should track the price pretty well. And for investors that want to hold it in a brokerage account, either because it's an IRA or it's because they just, they have assets in that account that that's the institution they feel comfortable holding with, I would at least prefer to see a spot Bitcoin ETF, which again you see in some other countries, but the United States so far is kind of been improving this futures based route, which I think is in the long run not going to be very beneficial for shareholders.
Do you think it's just a test though ahead of
It
it?
might be. Yeah, there's different ways. So, some of the issues with spot ETFs is that, in theory, you can have those like, those crazy candles where, you have an issue on exchange and suddenly like, Bitcoin is kind of, spikes down in price and then comes back up. So I think they're worried about things like that, whereas futures are a more regulated market. But the problem is that futures don't track the underlying Bitcoin, and you kind of bleed out some of your capital by rolling those futures over time. And so it is possible this is like a test. The more conspiracy route is basically that if you have a large enough futures market over a spot commodity market, it is a way to kind of potentially influence the price a little bit or even suppress the price a little bit. So that's one of the more things that some of the people are concerned about. Overall, I'd like to see, for example, Grayscale eventually convert into a Bitcoin ETF, and they obviously have plans for that.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information, and it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
So overall, definitely a spot ETF would be better. I think obviously people should at least consider self-custodying where possible. But if you're going to have these regulated products, I do think that eventually they should move towards having a spot one as well.
And have you got a price target for the year? I know this is the question everyone hates. And is there any chance that you might scale out of Bitcoin at some point if prices get to a certain point, or you are a 10-year, multi-decade Bitcoin hodler?
So I plan to hold my allocation for the very long term. I don't plan on selling any cold storage Bitcoin. I have I have a little bit of GBTC. I have a little bit of minor equities. I would consider selling them or trimming them in a parabolic spike and kind of, allocating a little bit differently. But the cold storage Bitcoin is not something I plan on touching. As for price targets, I mean, I tend to avoid specific kind of 1 quarter or 2 quarter price targets. That's more of a trading call than like a macro investor kind of framework call. I am on record saying that I wouldn't. So when last year in 2020, when Bitcoin's market cap was maybe a third of a trillion, I was on record saying I think it could hit over a trillion And so we crossed that mark. And then once it did there, I said, well, I certainly could see over 100,000, by the end of this year. Now, obviously, we've been in a correction for a while. I still think that's on the table. It could be 2022. I don't have a strong opinion about timing. That's more of a trading call. But overall, I'm still very bullish long term. So that's kind of my main focus, is that it's an asset that I want to hold for many years, rather than something I want to focus on. What is the quarter by quarter price target of it? But I do think that a six-figure price target is eventually in the cards.
What to do in such a situation? Inform yourself and keep your financial education strong. We from the Compact Group offer our loyal subscribers a free educational portal with first-hand monetary, financial, and economic knowledge. Enter our invite-only Insider Club by clicking the link below. You will get access to first-class information far earlier than the rest. We have prepared a special deal for all our members, where you can access a giant pool of Robert Kiyosaki's financial wisdom for just $1. To find out more, simply click the link below and join our Insider Club absolutely free. But there is more you can and should do. Build up several streams of income. More and more people realize that they have to take their future in their own hands, but they don't know how and where to start. We from Compact offer our Insider Club members unique opportunities. Strengthen your financial muscle and get the edge. Click the link below. Become part of our free Insider Club. No financial obligations. But there's one important thing you have to know. You have to become active. So do it now. Become active, and see you on the other side.